everyone, my name is Maly. As she said, I went to Nepal for 2 weeks with the My Goal Foundation, and this is my reflection of my trip that I went on. So I want to thank Matthew right there, my cameraman. He is one of the members of the My Goal Foundation. My Goal Foundation was created due to the tragic loss of their daughter Maya. She really believed in social justice, and it was her dream to go to Nepal, and she wanted to make a change. Something that me and Maya have in common is we wanted to do something good in the world. She read a book called Soul, and it was about a girl who was trafficked in Nepal. And that's what the main thing my slides are about. But before we get into that, so I'm pretty sure you all know, but just to clarify, Nepal is a small little country, as you can see right there in red, between China and India. We went to the little red square, Kathmandu, and it was a really long flight. It was really long. So we flew to Abu Dhabi, and then from there we went to Kathmandu. So I want to talk about a little bit about the culture before I get into everything. So up there are prayer flags. You've probably seen them before because it's the most iconic thing. People have them all over their houses, and they say namaste, and they try to be cultural, but they've never been to Nepal, so it's like, okay. In the corner over there is my best friend Sarah, and she is spinning a prayer wheel. Now this is a really big one. It's almost as big as this whole room. It was huge, it was ginormous. And one thing that you're gonna see in Nepal are prayer wheels. It's really iconic. You're gonna see small ones, big ones, and you're supposed to spin them clockwise, right? And so it's for good luck, it's for prayers, family members do it, and you go around what you would call the stupa, which is in Kathmandu. It was a really big one of the Buddha. It looks like this one, except it's got a face on it. Here, like that one. And you just find little small ones. Another thing is the food. This is called dalbat, and it's mainly made up of, let's see, right here is lentil soup, and then you've got rice in the middle, you've got spinach, you've got, a lot of people there are either vegetarian or they'll make a meat dish for you. So they'll have chicken or veal and something else, but I'm not terribly sure. Another thing that is well known in Nepal, they're called momos.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure you guys know what dumplings are, right? So think of a dumpling, except they're in like a little moon shape. And you squeeze them, and they're usually steamed, and it comes with a nice momo sauce. It can either be tangy, spicy, or mild and nice. One time, we went to a restaurant, and we asked for momos, and they gave us ketchup. It was like the most un-Nepali thing I have ever seen in my life. But that was really good. And so over here, when we were walking around the stupa, we got to go to this temple, and they were performing like a traditional dance. It was really interesting. Their colors, like, it was amazing. You gotta go see it. Just hop on a plane and go. So here's one of the main things. This is Devi. This is the school we went to help out. So you guys all know about the earthquake that happened in Nepal in like 2015, right? So this school was greatly affected. And so I don't have any pictures of it, but this is one big school, and right next to it they were building another part to it. And those paintings, the alphabet and the numbers over there, is what some of my fellow ambassadors painted on the wall. Me over here, it was me, Julian, up there is Charlie and Phoebe for a little bit, and then Sarah, she's right in the corner, she blends in with everyone. She's so small. Like, we have a mom who went on the trip, her name's Amy, and me and her were looking for Sarah, and we were like, where's Sarah? Well, she's just sitting with the kids. You can find her. But anyhow, so me and Julian were painting with the kids. We were trying to teach them creativity to express themselves. And one thing that we saw that they all did the same is they did a house, clouds, and trees. And we thought that meant they didn't know anything other than that, because where they were in this, it was long roads. They all had to walk miles just to get to school. And I guess they didn't really have a lot that we all had to be like creative about. So I guess I kind of appreciated all that we had compared to them. I just had to take a bus to school. They have to walk miles and miles just to get a decent education. But it was great working with them. We all played around, had games. But the one thing I want to talk about is the fact that they're in school is probably saving their life. Because what I'm here to talk about is human trafficking with children, women, and men. And if those children weren't in school, they'd probably be out working. And they're like only a couple years old. They're only like, some of them are as young as maybe 3, some of them are maybe 10. And they'd be working with their parents, and they'd be out in the field, and they'd be in hard labor, and they could be trafficked at any moment. So, and they also get fed at this school. In the back, there's a little kitchen where all the teachers make up food for them. They'd probably go hungry without this school, because Nepal is one of the poorest countries in Asia, and they don't have very much. So the fact that they're in school saves them from that. Human trafficking is a huge problem all over Asia, but particularly in Nepal, it's one of the up there countries. So women and children are especially trafficked into the sexual exploitation, and men are no exception either. Men are used for hard labor because in Nepal it's a very traditional system. So other countries like China and India like to exploit them because they're nearby countries. So the problem is that they only have 14 checkpoints regulating the Indian-Nepali border, and so that allows for the traffickers to get around them and for them to sneak them in. For the men, they're exploited in China for hard work, labor, and just used for anything that they can find. Women, they're used for hard labor too. That's no exception. But the main one up there is India because it's the largest. But people don't think about the smaller countries like Southeast Asia and all those other countries. But they're affected too because they're so poor and there's nothing they can really do about it. So the population in Nepal is about 28 million, and the estimated number of modern slavery is 230,000. So compare that number to the population, it doesn't look a lot, but it is a lot because Nepal is really small compared to like a bigger country. And so what they mean by vulnerability is what I was referring to with the children, women, and men. They're exploited because they're promised jobs and a good life. And a lot of the times the families are so poor they can't afford anything and they sell their children. Which sounds really harsh, but if you're in a really terrible situation and that's what you have to do, that's what they're going to do. And it's really terrible. So one thing that we visited when we were in Nepal, which was really good, was Sasane. And so they have programs set up, like the paralegal programs, Sisterhood of Survivors, the school awareness program, and the community outreach program. So let's talk about SOS. It is about female survivors that came out of trafficking and to help them educate on how to make a life for themselves after they were trafficked. And that also is with the school awareness program. They go to villages and they teach young girls and teenagers the tactics that traffickers use to try and manipulate them into thinking of good jobs and a good life, but really they're just trying to exploit them. And they also teach parents that there are other ways that you can go about getting money and to help them. And with the community outreach program, it's the same thing. It goes out and reaches to people. And the school awareness program, back to that, is just more education solid. And then we have the paralegal program. I'm not really sure what that was about, but you get what I mean. We went there, they gave us a really nice meal, and they taught us about what they did. And it was really interesting to listen to them because some of them did have a story themselves, and it goes back to the human trafficking. There's not a lot we can do realistically, but we can help support programs in Nepal, such as Sasane, to help reach out to victims and to communities that could be affected by this. Are there any questions about trafficking or culture you'd like to ask?
I'm just wondering, what are the different aspects of trafficking? You mentioned hard labor and sexual exploitation. Are there other facets of trafficking?
Repeat the questions. Repeat the questions. Can you repeat the questions?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So other exploitations. I don't know. I guess for anything really, because it's human trafficking, they'd be used for anything really. Any more questions?
At what age do they leave school? The school is supported by the government, or?
Some schools aren't, and some schools are.
Okay. So, at what age do usually that school goes up to what age group?
They have a school that goes up to 18. So they have education like us. It's just in a different form. They have like pre-education, like preschool and stuff like that, and then middle school and high school. But it's just kind of like a different. The university starts when you would say they're in 11th grade. So it's kind of like that. The people that are affected are people who aren't in school, who aren't educated.
Right.
Because they're in these villages working.
Right.
That's why. Yes.
Do they have free public education, or do people have families have to pay for their kids to go to school?
The one in Singadevi is free public education. It's more pulled together by locals and for programs such as like us, like in the United States, that help fund them. But maybe in the main city in Kathmandu there are more expensive, but that's the city. So people in the city are less likely to be trafficked, but they still can be.
Did you spend your entire time in Kathmandu, or did you go out to other parts of the country? And if so, what differences did you notice?
Singadevi was
4 hours away.
Yeah, it was 4 hours away. And compared to the city, I don't have any pictures of that, do I? I don't think so. But basically the difference between Kathmandu City and the town we went to was it was super green and rural. They had jagged kind of hill-like, and their town, like take a little town, people would have to walk miles just to get to this town, and the roads were horrible. So if you were on a bus, you'd be bumping around 4 hours on a bus doing that. So I don't know. It's really bad, but it goes up and down, so it's not like they can really do anything about the roads.
In addition to raising awareness about Nepal, what does the Maya Gold Foundation hope to accomplish?
So this was the first teen trip that they did. They did do a trip where it was just adults, like family, and they went to go see what they could do with us. And so with us youth ambassadors, they took us around Nepal to understand its culture. And so when it comes to the human trafficking part, we can understand why they're so able to be exploited so easily. And so I think the Maya Gold Foundation wants to express the goal that Maya herself had about understanding and what we can do to raise money to help these people. Like there's this place, they're called the Himalayan Children's Charity, and they run HCC, which is the abbreviation of it, and they help out kids and teens that have no family, and it's like a big home for them, kind of like a better version of an orphanage. And I think that's one thing that allowed for them to help in Nepal.
How many were in the group that you went, and how many were teenagers and how many were adults?
Okay, so there's 5 adults, so 2 of them are right there. And then there was 15, okay. There are 15 youth ambassadors, all ranging from 15 to 18. So we were all high schoolers, except for Charlie. Charlie was in 7th grade, but he was fine.
Were they all from Nepal?
No. Some of them, like my friend Sarah over there, she's from Onteora. There was one girl, Taylor, she came all the way from New Jersey because she knew Maya from a camp they went to.
What language do they speak?
They speak Nepali. Here, I got one minute. Here, they speak Nepali. It's very similar to Hindu, and that means Dhanyavad. That means thank you in Nepali. And it's because Nepal and India are so close because of their ties. It more looks like Indian instead of Chinese, which is kind of interesting to think about. The religion also is very mixed. There's like a Hindu, Buddhist kind of vibe going on. There's a few more questions. Here.
Do students have to stay in school to a certain age?
They don't have to stay in school, unlike here. A lot of schooling is out of their free will. But because they come from such a small and poor country, they want to learn. They want to get an education because it'll help them to reform the country. I have a couple friends in Nepal, like my friend Elena. She's my big sister in Nepal, and she's training to be a doctor. So if all of these kids, like the kids from HCC, if they get a good education, they can become doctors, and I don't know if they have lawyers in Nepal, but they can become important people, and they can help shape Nepal. And maybe one day they won't be as poor as they are and they'll be able to advance.
What is the government doing to prevent human trafficking? I mean, Nepalese government.
Okay, so the Nepalese government is rated a B out of all the governments. They're doing their best to try and limit all the, as I told you about the 14 checkpoints, they're trying to put more authority, trying to stop people from trading. They want to crack down on the laborers that they're using. But unlike here in America, over in Nepal, a lot of the government isn't controlling a lot of these things. Like, for instance, a restaurant. Think of a restaurant. The government has a little sticky note of that restaurant, of its grade point, how much funding it gets, all this other thing. But in Nepal, there's a lot of things that the government doesn't like see because they're not as powerful as over here. So they've been trying to improve over the years, especially since 2015, because the earthquake increased exploitation actually by like 40%, because everyone was focused on getting their things together, rebuilding towns. So the government has definitely been working on it, but there's not a lot that we can do. And we have an embassy over there, actually. The United States has an embassy over there who works with the Nepali government to try and improve things over there.
When I was in India, in the Rajasthan area, the children that went to school had uniforms, and there was a group of children that were outside kind of watching, and they didn't look very happy. But I said, why aren't they going to school? And he says, well, their parents can't afford to buy them uniforms. So it was more of a social type of thing, economics mainly, yes. They can't afford a uniform, they certainly can't pay the money to let them go to school. And I thought that was extremely sad seeing those children outside. They really felt left out, and they were.
Yeah, in India they still have the caste system. They abolished it in Nepal, but I'm pretty sure because of the Indian influence, it's still sort of there. And so as you saw in this one, they all had uniforms, but if you see right there, those two little girls, not Sarah, but the one girl in red and the one girl in blue. There were a couple girls there that didn't have uniforms, but they were able to go there because it was public. So that definitely applies to Nepal as well when it comes to affording things. A uniform helps unify the kids there, and I don't know, I guess it's just their structured system in Asian countries.
If they have to walk so far to get to school, and there's no overnight dorms or anything, so they have to get up really early and they get home late, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what their hours were, but I think they would definitely have to get up, but some of them would have to get up probably like an hour and a half early, because as I said, the lands are so far away and so bumpy and dusty that they'd have to get there like on time, like really early, and then they wouldn't finish as late as we do. Like we finish at 2:30, and if we do sports, we finish at 4. But they finish in a good time, like 2 o'clock, like us, and then they get home and they'll probably be home around 3.
How were you chosen? Excuse me. How were you chosen to go on this trip? You and other people.
So how I heard about this trip was actually really interesting, because my ties to Nepal was my mother. She went there. She went to Mount Everest Base Camp, and she loved Nepal. She thought Nepal was wonderful, and I've always wanted to go because I felt like I could be close to her. And so the My Goal Foundation put up flyers in New Paltz High School we're taking a trip to Nepal. And I was really stunned because I'm like, they mean Nepal as in the small country in Asia? Because I didn't think anybody knew where Nepal was. It's this small little thing. Like, not to shout at anybody, but my boyfriend over there, he asked his family, like, where Nepal was, and they all thought it was, like, Tibet or something. And so I was like, are you sure people mean Nepal? And so I applied, and I told them why I want to go, how I want to make a difference, and I got accepted, thank God. And it was the most greatest experience I've ever been on. Yeah.
Is it a safe place to visit? Like, if you go as a tourist, you have to really guard your stuff or be pickpocketed? Or I know when I went to Spain, they told me to wear my backpack on my front and not on my back.
Yeah, that applies here, definitely. One thing I want to say is, when we were there, a bunch of Canadians went there with us, but I guess they weren't briefed or anything, and they kept petting the dogs, like really petting the dogs. And they were wearing shorts, like really short shorts. And so in Nepal, they don't really like to show a lot of skin. They like shoulders covered, your shorts have to be down to your knees. For women, definitely don't show no legs. Especially if you want to go into a temple or anything like that, you don't want to be like all out. You want to be covered, and that's just the culture there. It's nothing against like you guys. But oh, one other thing is, yes, especially when you're in the cities, you want to make sure you keep your eyes on your stuff. Because I told you, they're poor and they'll do anything to get their hands on something valuable. So you want to keep your money to yourself. You don't want to rip out all your money and like, rip out like 100s. Like, oh, here's 5 rupees for a coffee. Like, no, don't do that. But yeah, definitely. When we were, I think it was Bhaktapur, one of the people told us keep your bags on your stomach. I didn't do that because I thought it looked dumb, but it definitely makes sense. Any more questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
What year are you in school?
So, I just finished my 11th year, so I'm a senior now. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to go to college and be great.
Something crazy.
So you can use this for your college essay.
Oh my god, that's true. I can use it for my SAT essay.
I missed a lot of what you said, but do you get many tourists? Do they encourage tourists?
Definitely, yeah. Tourists bring money. It's one of the main things in Nepal. They thrive off of money because in Nepal they have this thing called bargaining, and so you're supposed to go back and forth with them. Matthew's wife Elise was like great at it, but I don't know. I just didn't like it. Like if they said $10, I gave them $10, but Elise would argue with them for like $5. It was nuts. Yeah, if you want to go to Nepal, go to Nepal. Like, go. Experience the culture. You help their economy. It'll be life-changing and great. I suggest you all go. Get out of the place. Dude. Just go to a foreign country. It'll be great.
What are your fundraisers? Do you have annual fundraisers for this, or do you depend upon donations, or?
Yeah, the My Goal Foundation is a non-profit organization, so they do depend on donations and grants. But their money is all used for things like this, for trips. There's actually another trip coming up. There's one for adults, and there's going to be another one for teens, which I'm hoping to get on again.
So the participants mainly pay their own way, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
All that money is used wisely for the trip, though, so you're not like spending it on nothing.
And who supervises? Like, is there an agency, travel agent, some central place that arranges all the meetings and airfare and all that?
No, I think Matthew does it all.
Matthew?
Matthew and Elise do the whole thing. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they plan it all out. I mean, do you have an agent? No?
In that photograph of you,
in the bottom
Oh, that's
left.
miserable.
Do you have, I was, no, you don't look miserable. Do you have a mark on your forehead?
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
when we got there, they gave us a scarf and then they put a welcome kind of like line, which was really interesting because they did that a lot when we were going around temples and stuff. How in India, you know, you have a spot. In Nepal, a lot of them were lines, which was really interesting. There's this scarf that we got. We got scarves everywhere. When we went to Sasane, they gave us a scarf, and when we went to temples and stuff, they bless us with water
Scarves.
and put it on our shoes.
Is that scarf actually a kata?
A what?
A kata, it's what you give to holy people?
Yes.
It is, that's what I thought, it looks
So
like it.
it's a religious significance,
Yes.
the mark of the scarf.
Oh, you
I
don't
just
understand
wanted to
that.
share with you that my granddaughter was a senior in high school when she wanted to study happiness. So she went to Nepal.
Oh.
And it was a life-changing experience for her. And then when she came back from this trip, she had to share with her classmates about what she learned, and the monastery that she went to was way up on top of a cliff. And it was really gorgeous. It was a life changer for her. I'm sorry I wasn't.
Actually, on Maly, were happy actually. So it was wise that she chose that country because even though they don't have much, what they do have, they're so grateful for. And everyone we met, I don't think there was a single Nepali person we met that was rude or snide or anything. They were super happy, they were thankful. Back to the Dhanyavad word, they don't really use that word because it's implied when they give you something or they receive something. It's implied because they're so thankful for everything that they have. And I think we should apply that to the way we live and be more humble by everything that we have.
But isn't that in contrast to trying to steal things from tourists?
Yeah.
What did you say?
In every country, there's those nasties.
No. How do you account for that, for the happiness?
What do you mean?
Well, what I
Why are
mean is
they
that
blind?
we have a lot more in the United States, but we are not a particularly happy people. How do you account for the fact that the people in Nepal are known for their happiness, yet they have very little in material possessions? What did you observe that you could explain that?
I feel like here in the United States, we want more and more, and we try and get money and objects to fill our happiness or whatever, but we don't go outside and experience life and travel. A lot of people don't do that. Of course, there are people who do that. But unlike in Nepal, they don't have money to travel. And so they rely on their communities that they live in, and I don't know, they're simple folk. So I feel like the happiness drives from just being with family. Family is such a close thing, and their religion is one thing that they religion there is very much a part of everyday life, unlike maybe here, some people are like, oh, I'm Catholic here and there, but there it's like, it's just one of the things that they are. Yeah. Anything else?